Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for our free live program. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com, where you'll find information about upcoming events and the latest issue of our monthly newsletter, Observations. And now, here is the host of New Tracks Modeling, Tom Farrell.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to New Tracks Modeling, a live Zoom and YouTube show that airs every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. New Tracks Modeling was founded by Jim Kello with the mission of building a supportive and educational community where mentors help modelers build. Our platforms include the live Zoom and YouTube show you're watching now, along with our Facebook page, the New Tracks website, and our Observations newsletter, which has over 8,000 subscribers. Everything we do is completely free for our participants. Our entire team operates on a volunteer basis, dedicated to supporting the model railroading community. Before we begin tonight's program, let's take a moment to hear from our show's sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading.
Tonight's New Tracks Modeling Meetup is sponsored by Brennan's Model Railroading. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products focused on the O-scale market. Their flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. The prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, Brennan's has developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits that anyone can build. The complete photographically illustrated instructions assume you've never done this before, and explain in step-by-step detail how to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits are amazing additions to any layout. These kits take Frank Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials with Dennis Brennan's additional details and amazing instructions. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit.
I encourage everybody to support our sponsors, and in particular, Brennan's Model Railroading. Take a look at their website, see what they have, and if you need something, support them. Next, I'd like to review our program for this evening. We have Father Ron Walters kicking off the show tonight with a scratch build of what he's calling Building Grandma's House. He's a terrific modeler, and it'll be interesting to see what he has in store for us. Then we have, actually, that's not correct. We don't have Martin on there. It goes to Steve Bittenger, Garden Railroading, part 1 of 3. And then we switch to New Tracks' own Chris Course for the MyBuild. And it's a very comprehensive MyBuild this evening. There's a lot of participants, and this is what we like to see because these are our viewers and their models. So it's a fantastic lineup this evening, but before we put on Father Ron, I'd like to take a moment to highlight our New Tracks Modeling Scholarship Program.
Are you a model railroader going to college in academic year 2025-26? If you are pursuing a STEAM degree, apply for the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship. For the 2025-26 academic year, 3 $2,000 scholarships will be available. You can apply online at the QR code shown or on the New Tracks Modeling website. Model railroaders can support the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship, the only national scholarships for model railroaders from a nonprofit organization. Donate online on Zephy. All donations are tax deductible.
Now, our founder, Jim Kello, was very passionate about the scholarship program. And it's a very worthwhile endeavor. 2 years in a row, we've offered $2,000 scholarships to total of 6 so far, 3 each year, to STEM students. And it's our expectation that we will offer 3 additional scholarships this year in 2025 for $2,000 each to STEM students. So it's a very worthwhile endeavor, as I had said, and please take any little bit helps. Please take a moment to donate. Much appreciated. Well, as I said in the program, we have Father Ron, who's a regular on closing our show. He's actually a master modeler himself, and with enough coercion, I got him on. So welcome, Father Ron, in a modeling role. We appreciate you doing this evening.
Well, thank you. I was hoping to be able to show you some of the work I'm doing. You asked me several shows ago if I would show what I'm working on, so I put together a PowerPoint here. I'm going to share what I've got. And I changed things a little bit. I'm calling it my current projects. Most of it is about my grandmother's house. She was a German background, came to the United States. Well, she was born in the United States. Her parents came here probably during the mid 1800s. She was born in the late 1800s and married a fellow German farmer as well. It's in Denton, Kansas, which is a rural area, northeast Kansas, not far from the Missouri River and one of its tributaries. And this is the house as you see it in Google Street Maps. That's the current view of it. You can see it's a bit deteriorated. She lived to be 93 years old and died in, I think, the late 80s. Since then, it was purchased, well, it was taken over by her son, Bernard. And when he died at 94. My grandmother died at 93. And before he moved into an assisted living home, he sold it to one of my cousins. One of my cousins then, he kept the farm, but he sold the house to a person who ended up being a trainer of dog fights and was arrested, and I don't know who's living in it now. When I was there, of course, this area was all fenced off and it was very carefully kept. It has since deteriorated quite a bit. This is the view of the area from Google Earth, top to bottom, left to right. The very topmost building is the new barn. You can't see the old barn in this, but it's falling apart. Just below that is the chicken coop. I don't know whether they still have chickens or not, but my grandmother certainly had them. To the left there is the corn crib. It has a new roof on it from when I was a kid. And then below that is the house. You can see it's a compound roof and has an addition on the lower right. What you don't see very much of because it's covered in part by trees, but to the right of it, that little gray area after the 2 propane tanks is the smokehouse. My parents, during the Great Depression, raised their own crops and slaughtered their own cows and pigs and smoked their own meat. So they got through the Depression on their own. for the most part. My grandmother raised 11 children. She actually gave birth to 12, but the 12th child died within a few days of its birth. So that house had to house 11 children, ranging from oldest to youngest. The youngest two were twins. So it's a rather large house. I used Google Earth's measuring abilities to find kind of what the size of the house was, so I knew what to convert it to. I began using a piece of wood I bought quite a number of years ago from Micromark. At the time, I was new to scratch building, and I didn't know much about the wood that was available from Micromark. And this piece is 1/8 of an inch thick, but it's meant for dollhouse furniture. And I couldn't use it because the spacing on the boards is too broad for HO scale. So I used the back side of it to lay out all the walls and windows. There are 10 walls altogether for the building, 10 large windows, basically a single pane over a single pane. It was one extra large building window, which was not the same size as the other 10. It had 2 small windows and 3 doors. I'll mention about one door later. I managed to find some windows that were approximately the right size in Tichy, so I used the 8061 for that. That's 4 panes over 4 panes, so I just took out the mullions on the top and the bottom. The small windows are the small caboose windows that you can buy from Tichy, 8067. And the doors were in my collection already. They were 5-panel doors, number 8032. I also have a chimney, one of Tichy's chimneys that I'll use on the roof of the building. I'm going to have to hand build the extra large window because I couldn't find a Tichy window that was even close to the size of that window in the photograph. And I'm using rail scale models, asbestos siding strips, the step pattern. I have yet to color them or to weather them or to even seal them. I haven't gotten quite that far yet. After I laid out the windows, I divided them up into smaller pieces. As you can see here, there over on the left is an extra piece, which will come in very handy because of a mistake I made in measuring and laying out all the windows. So you can see where the top little piece in each of the sections is an extra piece as well, which will come in handy at one point when I rebuild one of the walls in the building. I cut out all the windows while they were still all attached to the smaller pieces to handle. The piece that I was using was about 24 inches long, so it's kind of hard to operate on a full piece on my desktop. So I cut them into smaller sections and then cut out the windows and doors. I reinforced the back side, even though it's 1/8 of an inch thick wood, and I coated the inside with some basic camouflage paint from what do you call it, Rust-Oleum, to darken the inside. I'm not going to model the inside of the house. It's rather complicated, and I don't quite want to do that. I'm giving this as a gift to one of my sisters, whom I grew up with and I'm close to, and I told her about it. She said, "Oh, I'd like to have a model of that." You can see the extra large window right about the center of the photograph. It turned out to be I measured it too big, and so I had to remake that repair later on. The front side that you see some of the paint stains on, I'm not too concerned about that because that'll be covered up with the siding material. But I did stain that front side with Hunterline's medium brown stain. And I used Tamiya's fine surface primer white for all the windows. Now they will be painted later on as well. I'll paint the color that will match the siding color. This gives you an idea of all the walls that are involved in this. I used for the corner posts some of that special Z type of corner posts that Micromark and Northeastern Scale Models produces. There are two sizes, and this is the 1/16th. It turns out to be 1/16th corner posts. This was the actual corners of it. I did not put any corner bracing on the edges of the walls. This Z kind of wood, I don't know how to describe it. You can see it for sale in both Micromark and Northeastern Scale Models. And this is the siding that goes on there. I drew lines onto each of the boards to keep my siding material from getting crooked. It's a technique that we often use in scratch building. You see up at the top something I will talk about later. It's the rabbit hole I went down in building wooden crates. So it gives you an idea of that. I laid out 11 windows, but discovered that I only needed 10. The eastern side of this building face is basically a north, south, east, west building. And the eastern side, you can't see much because Google Street Maps didn't go around the other side of the building, just went down the road that the house sits along. And so I had to try to use Google Earth to try to see the east side of the building. I have to admit, it's been some 60 years since I visited this house. And as much as I'd like to say I have a good brain, I couldn't remember exactly where the windows were in this house. So on the eastern side of that north part of the building, I put 2 windows, but there was only one. And so it was good enough to keep my plugs that I had cut out of the wood and used it to glue into that spot. It would be covered by the siding anyway, so you wouldn't see necessarily any of the patching work that I had to do. When I first laid out the building, the south section of that house, I used the measurements from Google Earth, but you don't often get accurate measurements. You get close to accurate measurements with Google Earth. And when I looked at it again, as I was getting ready to face the south sections, I said, there's something wrong about this. It doesn't look right. I had scaled the length of those walls at 18 scale feet. They're actually 24 scale feet. So I had to add 4 scale feet to each of those east and west side walls of that building. And of course, the extra large window was basically too large. I made it 5 scale feet wide instead of 12 scale feet wide. So I had to do some major repairs before I could put the siding on the buildings. Here's a picture now of the building. It has a foundation. I haven't covered the foundation yet, but you can see that extra large window below there in the center. That's all hand built or scratch built. And all of the windows have the acetate in them. I said there were 3 doors. Well, when I went to side the building, I forgot you can't see it, but just to the left of the add-on section of the building here is another door. It's the door we always entered when we went in to see Grandma. It was the back door, the side door of the house. This add-on section was actually added on sometime before I was born. It had the milk separation room in it, but also had an indoor toilet and shower for my grandfather and my one uncle, single uncle who lived with grandma and grandpa, helped farm the land. So that's what that add-on section was. But you went in this east side of the building. You can see I've covered over that window that was there. And when you walked up a couple of steps, walked in the door, you could go down into the storm cellar and then turn to the left and go into the house through this section of this add-on section and into the kitchen area. So this is the house finished as far as the walls go. It's a compound roof, and I haven't started on it yet. I intend to use the Inkscape to lay out the roof and try it out several times if I need to before I actually begin building the roof. It's quite a compound roof if you remember from the picture here. You can see there's two sections to the roof. The south section basically comes in to merge or meet the east-west section of the house. So I have that, and then the add-ons roof for the add-on section also is compound. And it's not easy to see exactly what it looks like, so I will do the best I can to make a model of it. In addition to this, another piece that I'm working on is this building here. It's called Western Tablet in St. Joe, Missouri. While I was in college, for a couple of months, I worked for the Missouri Pacific Railroad as maintenance of the way, and it was quite taxing work for a college student. I wasn't a football player like all the other summer employees were. I basically got heat exhaustion and nearly collapsed while I was working out there in the hot sun, maintaining the way. And after a month or so, I quit and went back to work with my father, who was an electrician, as an apprentice electrician. And his union location was in St. Joe, Missouri. So I became an apprentice with the union there and began working, and passed by Western Tablet almost every day on the way to work. If any of you remember the Big Chief tablets that you used in first grade and second grade for printing, learning how to print, and in second grade, learning how to do cursive, you probably used a tablet that was manufactured here in St. Joe, Missouri. We typically commonly call this building West Tab, shortened it from Western Tablet. It is empty now, historical landmark in St. Joe, Missouri, but it produced not only the Big Chief tablets, but also the spiral-bound notebooks and the test books that you used in college if you use those black textbooks, as well as notebook paper, the tablets that we use today, even the legal tablets were all produced here and shipped out. Now, this is a rather complex building to scratch build. And I had some of Walther's modular building pieces. So I decided I would represent West Tab in my own kind of way. And so I've put together a picture or an idea of Western Tablet. It's not the same number of stories. It's a smaller version, my interpretation of West Tab. So this is just a shell right now. I don't have a lot of praise for Walther's modular pieces, especially the instructions. They were very difficult to interpret or to understand. I had to do I put some pieces of the walls together and then had to take them apart again and re-put them and re-glue them back together again in order to create this. And there's really no easy way to do an inside corner, as you see here in this photograph. So I had to cut apart some of the pilasters and figure out how to put them back together again. And a building this large, which is kind of what the modular system was made for, is rather floppy. And so you see that I've used a lot of quarter-inch plastic uh, um, pieces to stiffen the building to make it more rigid. And this is the other side of it. It will have a foundation, it will have loading docks and so on. This is just beginning my interpretation of it. So there's a couple of photographs of Western tablet. One of the things about considering this, I've made some cardboard floors for the inside that I'll basically put wooden flooring on. So many windows you can see into the building. So I thought, well, I have to do something on the inside. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole. I think I mentioned this a couple of shows ago. I began creating wooden crates from scratch. I'll let you know that Tishy does make wooden crates that you can glue together, but I wanted the challenge of creating my own. And basically what I used were the business cards that you can get from Lee Valley and other sources. And I began cutting up the actual business cards, not only for the crates, but also for the reinforcement around each of the sides of the crates. So I thought I'd give you an idea of how I put together the larger ones. So here's on the left is the original business card that I've measured out for. By the way, if you're using the pallets that are available, they're usually about 4 by 4, 4 feet by 4 feet. And so if you're going to figure about putting these crates onto wooden pallets, they have to be in some sort of multiple of 4 in order to fit on the crate. So in the second, I've begun to separate out the pieces that will be necessary for the crates, all 6 sides, and cut them up into smaller pieces. And when you're making a large crate, these business cards aren't exactly very thick, and so they're easily warped. So I use square toothpicks that you can buy in the grocery store and cut off the tips and began to use the square parts to reinforce the corners, which you can see in the picture on the left. I put on just 2 sides, 2 of the sides, I've put the wooden toothpick, and I'll glue the sides that don't have the wooden toothpicks to them. This one gives you a kind of a vertical view of what it looks like on the inside before you add the final 2 sides to the crate. And on the right is the crate all glued together. So that gives you an idea of what I have been doing. Going down that rabbit hole took me quite a few evenings, and I still have lots of pieces to make crates with. I think I finished my crates, as you saw in that earlier photograph. I'm not going to make any more, but some of these other pieces that I cut apart for crates might be able to be used for signs on buildings, as you know, to stiffen the paper to make it look like a metal sign. So that's kind of where I've been.
Excellent work. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Pat.
What did you use for the siding on the house again? Was that shingles cut separately?
It's rail scale. It's a company here in the United States. They make all kinds of things for buildings, and they make siding, house siding. It's not the kind of tabs that you would use for roof shingles.
Yeah.
It's actual house siding, and it's called asbestos siding.
That's what I thought.
They make 2 kinds. One is called a step pattern, and one is called a curved pattern or a scalloped pattern. My grandmother's house, to me, from the photographs, looked like it had the asbestos siding on it.
Yeah.
And the step pattern, so that's what I chose.
Nice job, Paul.
Yeah, very nice. And that was one of my questions. And then on that Western tablet building, you know, that's trimmed out in Indiana limestone. I had to point that out.
Yes, yes.
And
The bricks probably were made right there in St. Joe, Missouri. My hometown of Atchison, Kansas, made their own bricks, and a lot of the streets that date back to the 1860s were hand laid by a man with no legs. He would roll around on a cart and hand laid all the bricks in the old streets. My home house where I grew up as a kid actually had a brick street in front of it, and it's still brick today. They haven't
yeah,
paved it.
well, the limestone's a natural complement to brick, and it's
Yes.
difficult to model that. Model it because it's so ornate. You know, it's almost an Art Deco look there. Do you know the year that building was put up?
I would guess it was probably the late 1800s
Okay.
because it's been around. I mean, that's why it's part of a historical landmark in St. Joe because it's one of the oldest buildings there. Of course, St. Joe goes back to the Pony Express carriers, so it's a pretty old city to begin with.
And that's excellent on the wooden crate. So if you're going to continue modeling that grandmother's house, your home, we'd love to have you on a part 2.
Yes.
Let me
Well,
know
it'll be a while because I have to really work on that roof. I'm not that familiar with roofs. So
let us know. But thank you very much. Excellent modeler and excellent modeling and great history. Yeah, very.
That's also my contribution to Chris this evening for kit bashing and scratch building.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Father Ron, and we'll hear from you later in the closing. Next up, we have Steve Bittenger, garden railroading. But before he begins, we're going to feature our observation. Before you start, we're going to feature our observations newsletter.
Get more new tracks modeling by reading the monthly Observations newsletter. Each edition of Observations includes exciting articles about modeling shown on the show, other modeling topics and prototypical railroading information. Other articles focus on outstanding model railroaders and new products from a range of suppliers. Don't miss the photos of the popular new Tracks MyBuild. You can download Observations for free from the new Tracks modeling website. Subscribe so you don't miss an issue.
Now, Mr. Bittinger, you're on.
Good to be back. It's been
a month.
Years. First time back on this year, so been a bit. I was gonna let everybody know, the viewers, if you're tuning in tonight, that just a little announcement that tonight's program has been rated G. For those of you watching,
or G scale.
Yes. Before I get into the actual project, I'm always out looking for deals, things we can build with. Here's one for you. This is a new one. This thing right here. These are called fans. Here's one. Here's a second one. This I got taped in a bundle, but a whole bunch of these. These are what the salesmen bring around to sell vinyl siding. And this is 2.5 by 8 inches on this sample. This other one is 5 inches by 2.5. And this stuff is pretty sturdy stuff. If you're in maybe N scale, HO, you could actually, I think, build a building on top of these things. This would be your starting point, or this could be the side walls. Glue it together. PVC solvent will hold it together, and the price is right. Just drop into your local lumber yard and ask them for the old salesman samples for siding. They change these things out like 3 times a year, and they just throw them away, or they lay around in the offices and collect dust. But this is a great modeling material to gather up. So going back to way back to August, where we were in the beginning of the last year with our outdoor raised garden railroad bed. For those who might be joining us or have forgotten, this is what we're building. Outdoor for G-scale trains, raised elevated about 2 feet tall out of the ground. Measurements about 30 feet along one side, 25 along the other, with a 12-foot extension here on the sides. In reference to that, we created a model that we were working on. And I'm going to go back a little bit, step by step, just to help everybody remember. So this site was being prepared, and for folks down in Kentucky who wanted to build a layout. And I don't really know their site that well, but we'll just assume it's relatively level. So first step was going to be to strip the grass off, get down in the sod about 4 inches. And we are building our sidewall here out of used railroad ties. That turned out to be the most economical item we could get a hold of. And the first course of those, we're going to lay into the ground about 4 inches in that area we've dug out. On top of that, we're going to run a second layer of railroad ties, another 8 inches worth. And when we do those, we lap the corners, tie them together. And the next thing you want to do after that is you're going to tie that first layer and that second layer together. You're going to take a long drill bit, drill down through there. So you go through the first layer and the second tie. And then we had this rebar material. This is the one we got that's very economical. This is fiberglass rebar. This is 16 inches long. That'll penetrate 2 of the railroad ties, first one and down to the second one. 14 inches will work just as fine. This will come out the bottoms. It's not necessary to do that, to go all the way down to the dirt level. You can cut it 14, stop short. Just make sure when you drill your hole, you get it long enough that this thing's going to go down flush to the top of your tie. Get those in. Now we're ready for another layer of our railroad ties. Going to put those on there as well. Drill those. And this time, when we put these back in the second time, make sure you don't go in the same location you were the first time. Move over 6 inches or so from that spot. Also, you got to remember, make sure you pin the corners, every corner as you go around. That's your strongest point. That's the really important ones to get in. So one of these about every 3 feet will do the trick, and it's going to be tied together nicely. After we've gotten that done, we're going to go to taking this plastic. And we had 2 ideas on this. These are just plastic trash bags. Remember, we bought a box of them. And we just cut them, we draped them down from the top, down inside on our side walls till they're just to the very bottom. You could buy a roll of black poly. These are cheaper. And if you have any bags left over, you can just use those around your house. After you got the black poly in there, we're going to go with perforated drain tile, 4-inch material, just like this one. That's going to go around our perimeter, entirely around there. And we're going to leave one little void spot here somewhere as you lay your ties. Generally about a 6 to 8 inch opening that can project out on the side. Is your best side on your site to let that excess water drain out of there. That's all this is going to do. Any excess that doesn't perk into the ground, it's going to go out this drain tile. Also in the wintertime, that's going to keep this from expanding. Freezing up. Ice freezes and expands, pushes on the walls. This will help prevent that. After we got that in there, we went to the next step, which I told you to go out to brick plants, concrete blocks, rocks, whatever you can get, and then put a layer down in the bottom. That's our drainage layer up against our drain tile, about 8 inches worth. So that's going to be up and over a little bit of that first tie. That's all we're going to need in there for that. The rest of it, we're going to start to do a backfill. Before we do that, you've got 2 options. One, you can put a weed block fabric in there if you want to. That'll help separate the dirt fill from the rock. It's not necessary. The dirt will eventually harden up and it won't penetrate in there anyway. If you think you need it with the type of soil you're using, then just go ahead and put that weed block. Once the weed block is down, you're going to take and spray it with a vegetation killer, sterilize that inside so you don't have any weed growth coming back up through your fill areas. Things like dandelions are pretty tough. They'll grow in about anything. So you want to make sure you spray that, sterilize it, because I guarantee there are weed seeds in the dirt you're going to get. So we've already put 1 or 2 loads of our fill material. I got Mr. Sherrill arriving here shortly with our last load. Here he comes now. He's a pretty good driver. He's getting better at this. So we're going to take the last of this material. I'm just going to give this thing a helping hand right across there. And we want to get to the point where we have enough of this dirt that we're going to be just a bit above the sidewalls of our frame. Yeah, the tailgate's being a pain tonight. I think our driver needs to lubricate that a little bit. So we spread this material out, flush through the site, and this stuff is loose. Next thing you're going to do is we're going to tamp that thing. Any type of tamper you can get, a plate tamper. They have the hand ones. You can just stomp the crap out of them with that. But a plate tamper running from a local rental place is probably your best bet because you're going to have to compact this tight. This is not the topsoil layer that your plants are going to grow into. This is strictly fill to get you up to grade. And I would say that from the time you put this in and you tamp it, hopefully it's going to rain 1 or 2 times. That's what's going to take it down in grade. Then you might have to go back and add some more fill material to it to get that back up where you'd like to have it. Also, we gave an option to you a little while back of getting strapping or wire, either one, stretching that across inside here. You can do that as you put the dirt in. You can do it right above that rock layer. You can do it twice if you want. You can do it between each layer of ties. So you want to strap across, strap across, strap across, strap across like this, side to side. That's going to stop this type of motion. Fortunately, this design, anytime you make a right angle, you increase the strength considerably. This will be the weakest wall. A long straight wall like that is definitely your weakest wall. So you're going to use this over here to pull on that to hold it in place. You won't have near as much spread on the outside of that. Oh, where are we at next? Next thing we're going to do is think about landscaping this thing. And I'll get Mr. Sherrill to hand me that container of 550 million year old rocks that we have here. And we have some more right here. And what I suggest for an area like this is to create a scenic block around here in the middle. And so to do that, we're going to take our boulders that we have right here, and we're going to get those in the center area of this layout. This is our tunnel, which we're going to work into this site. And we're just going to do this all along here. And we're going to leave this end wide open. This is going to be sort of our mountain terrain down at this end. And you can just work with whatever rock you get. It takes pretty good sized rocks, I'll be honest with you. In my outdoor railroad, I've got some of these rocks that probably weigh 800 to 900 pounds a piece. If we stood and looked at one of them, they are in the railroad, they're buried about a third. The rest of us sticking out. Some of those are 4 feet tall that are in there. Other ones are worked in around that site. So once we have this much accomplished, we can think about what we want to do for a track plan. I had thought that one of the better ideas on this was to leave this end open in the future. If you want to do a town, if you want to put sidings, if you want to do a little switching, the rest of the time I propose that go over and under with a tunnel being worked into this. And I'm going to put the tunnel kind of over here like that. I'm going to add this to it. I'm going to save this bridge. This bridge is for my over and under. And at this point, you're going to go and get more of your dirt and bring it in, because there's nothing worse than someplace that looks like an anthill on your railroad and you made a tunnel going for no reason whatsoever, right? It's like those situations. What you want to do is come back, and we're going to fill in between our rocks and boulders with the rest of our dirt. Don't worry about making a mess, Steve. And the idea is that as you're on the railroad, as you're walking around, visually, if I'm over here, I don't see the activity that's on this side. If I'm on this side or this side, I can't see everything that's going on here. It will absolutely make your railroad seem much larger. The area that you're running in, now we have a situation of, once we get enough material, I'm going to work the tunnel just down here, just a little bit. The lower track level, I have some nice little pink string right here. Hopefully we can see this on the camera. So you're just going to use your imagination here for a little bit. This is our track plan passing through this tunnel and upgrade eventually up into here to the point where we come out on the other side. It's our fancy little bridge over, and you'll be able to make several loops that way. You'll be able to here, bring yourself around. You'll be able to cross back under, get about double the run in there that you would if you just went around the perimeter of this thing. And when you get all done with that, you're going to come back, more of the dirt, more of the soil material buildup. If you're putting in plants, I have trees on my layout that are growing in as little as 6 inches of soil up on top of rock. They're doing just fine. At this point, we're going to just let all this set, because everywhere that we have track that's going to go in, we're going to end up digging this dirt back out. We're going to have to remove this material where our tracks are going to go, because we're going to have to put some type of solid base, be it compacted stone, concrete, whatever it happens to be, underneath there to support your track work. You cannot just leave it lay on the soil. That will be a hopeless situation. I started out many years ago on just stone dust. And every spring, it's like the stone dust fairy comes and takes your stone dust away. And you go get a whole bunch more of it and redo it. So eventually what I did is ended up building forms out of flexible PVC plastic. We poured 10 feet at a time, 6 inches wide, 8 inches deep, with a center rebar driven down and a center plastic spline. And that center plastic spline is the top of our grade. And we have the track secured to that spline right on top of it. It is screwed down. The track doesn't go anywhere. My ballast is a mixture. It's basically bonded to the top of that concrete. And now I've gotten to where I use very, very little replacement ballast, I guess you would say, each year to kind of doctor that up and make it work. When I get into the final program on this, I'll give you the mixtures and the formulas that I've come up with for what works with ballast to keep it in place. It's frost-proof, weatherproof, etc. Nothing's 100% proof, but it's way better than just throwing stone dust onto the situation. On our next program, after we get to here, one thing that people with their G-scale garden railroads should be doing while you're waiting for all these things to settle and take place, hopefully you've been out gathering track, finding track for your railroad, so you have plenty of track when you're done. It doesn't really matter. You can have straights, curves, whatever it will be. Most of the curved track can be rebent, and you can get the radiuses you want. They have track benders available. Most of the clubs in the area have purchased one, and they let all the members use them. In my case, I don't have one. I borrow one from one of the clubs. But we have taken very tight radius tracks and run through the benders and gotten just perfect radiuses that we'd like to have. So we're going to look for track, switches, because switches are expensive if we're going to have switching patterns. We're going to be looking for rolling stock in the form of rail cars, and we're going to look for locomotives. And at some point, the decision is going to have to be made if you're going to be track powered or you're going to be battery. I am a big proponent for being battery. And Steve Sherrill stand back there shaking his head because one, you don't have all the headaches of wiring outside to keep and maintain. 2, you don't clean track. No need to be out there cleaning your track all the time. Third item that goes with that is that onboard batteries simulate real railroad operations better than any other way. You can be operating one locomotive, a second train can be coming right along behind that one with a different controller occupying the same rail, which is very difficult to do outdoors with electrical wiring. So I'm going to hopefully say we're going to make this railroad battery powered. We save the cost of power packs, wiring, and that. Yes, batteries are initially expensive for the controllers and so forth, but that's a one-time expense. And I think it's well worth it. I would rather see you have 1 or 2 battery locomotives than say 4 or 5 track powered, because I think you'll be much happier in the long run. And last but not least is structures and buildings for on your railroad. There are plenty ready-made that you can purchase. Different companies have made them through the years. There used to be a bigger selection. There were more companies in the business. Now we're down to fewer. The buildings have gotten more expensive. So this is where scratch building, your G-scale outdoor buildings, is really vital if you want to have unique buildings, number one, especially industrial buildings. Number two, if you want to save costs. Most plans that you can get a hold of, I peruse through the Walters catalog and look at the structures they have and do little sketches sometimes and say, I can build that. I just need to blow up the measurements and I can get pretty close to what I see in those magazines. The last and final thing is going to be vegetation. At this point, we're not ready for vegetation right yet. The best time to buy vegetation is in the fall. Wait until the nurseries past Halloween, they want to reduce their inventories, start buying your plants, your miniature and small plants at that time of the year. It's also the best time of the year to plant them because they're not going to go in against the heat of summer. It's not going to be as hot on them. You're transplanting them. They're much more tolerant of cool weather to get themselves established than if you go out and try to do this midsummer, early spring onto the railroad. You can always buy plants ahead of time, put them aside, dig them in a hillside or somewhere so they're protected. When you're ready, just dig them up, bring them over, put them on the railroad. That's the easiest way to get a hold of them, or find somebody that maybe has some plants. You can always cut cuttings off of theirs, transfer them to yours, and start growing plants ahead of time. That's pretty much it for this evening. And our box car is outside. I didn't bring it in tonight. It sat through 2 snows. We had a 6 and a 2-inch follow behind that, and it's starting to weather up real nice. So next week we're back on the schedule again. We will have the boxcar that's been out since August, and you can see what 6 months of natural weathering looks like.
Well, thank you very much. And it's absolutely fascinating. I had the privilege to visit Steve's layout, which is indoor and outdoor and connected. So there's a connection from the indoor to the outdoor, and the outdoor is, well, both sides of the layout are just fabulous, but the outdoor is, I'm sure we'll see it in the spring. You'll do a little tour of that, I'm hoping.
I think you got to see it in the snow, I believe.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that we'll see it operational in the spring here, and that would make a nice segment onto itself. But it's absolutely fascinating, the G scale, and thank you for this evening. Look forward to the next segment, which will be next week.
Well, I'm determined to talk you into building your own G-scale railroad.
I'm thinking about it. Every time I look at my backyard, I blame you for those thoughts. Okay. Thank you very much. Next up, we have our MyBuild program with Chris Course. The MyBuild is our viewers actually showing their work. It's one of our most popular segments. Before we start this evening, though, it's sponsored by Model Resource, and I'd like to feature the sponsor before beginning the program.
Welcome to the world of scale, O&S railroading. We are your resource for all O&S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale Resource and the S-Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
Well, good evening, Chris. And
Tom, how you doing?
good. Welcome to the show, which is which is yours for the next hour at least.
All right.
So onward and
All right, let's get to the share screen here. All right, it'll take a second. There we go. All right, welcome to the February edition of the MyBuild. Without further ado, we'll get right into it. And first up, if I click on the right thing, we've got the this month's challenge, which is scratch builds and kit bashes. First up, we've got Martin. Are you up, Martin?
Well, I'm upright, sort of.
I had a feeling it's all ready. We'll head right on into it.
Okay. Well, these are the parts that went into, well, some of the parts that went into this build. We've got, and part of this is partly a scratch build, partly a kit bash. There are parts from all over on this build. And those are 2 trolley ends. Those red pieces are Indianapolis Car Company trolley car ends. So this is going to be a trolley car, and we got a bunch of other miscellaneous parts there. And we'll go to the next slide. And here's part of the kit bash part. This is Midwest Train Hobby. Stock trailer parts. They had a kit for a stock trailer, and I needed sides because I'm just too lazy to build or scratch build sides. So if I can steal them from another car, that makes life a lot easier for me. Okay, so we've got trolley car ends, and we've got a stock car sides. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is an Indianapolis Car Company trolley car roof. They made these. These were styrene, and they're fully shaped, but they're left and right pieces. You have to put them together, and there's little alignment pins in it. So the ends are already pre-shaped for you. It's all clear styrene, but the end is always the end on these. Their length is what they are, and if you need something longer, well, stretching styrene isn't easy, but shortening it certainly is. Well, it may not be easy. You've got to make you got to make 2 really good right angle cuts and put it back together, which is what I did. And I'm not going to get into how much fun it is to measure it and get that right, because you surely don't want to cut it short. Making it long, you can always sand it down and make it a little shorter, but adding length is next to impossible. That little piece of white there is some 60,000 styrene, just a piece of reinforcement. Really wasn't necessary. After you paint that joint with a lot of MEK, it's not coming back apart. So let's go to the next slide. And there's what we get when you put it all together. And yes, that is a stock motor. This is not a fanciful creation of mine either. The THI&E, Terre Haute, Indiana, and Eastern had 2 of these. They took possession of 2 of them that they ordered in 1912, and these things actually existed. They actually had stock motors. I have no more information as to how much use they actually had and how they traveled through town carrying cows or whatever livestock from here to there and back and forth and what have you. But it was a fun build to make, and there's a double magic carpet drive truck under the one end for power, and there's interior and in the cab ends, and that roof is only on there by friction. There's nothing holding it down except by friction, and I'm not sure I could get it back off unless I use a screwdriver and pry it off with a lot of force. It's very, very tight. When I measured it, it was modestly loose, removable, but when it came down to the very end after everything was painted, it was a bear to get inside that sides and ends. And once I got it in, I said, leave it. We're not messing with this anymore. And that is my kit bash scratch build project for this week or this month.
Yep.
Haven't written up the article for it yet. I'll get around to it someday. I'm not in any rush.
All right.
Any questions? Scream them out.
It's a beautiful car, Martin.
I came out a lot better than I expected it to. I have to say, I was really surprised at how well that roof snapped into place and met with those ends. So it was really a very pleasing, satisfying conclusion to that one. And that paint's kind of an interesting one. That's an odd Rust-Oleum color. It says it's burnt sienna, but it's unlike any burnt sienna I've ever seen. But it does make a really nice trolley car color.
Yeah, it's a really nice car. Looks like it was probably a pretty miserable ride, though, I can imagine.
Well,
cattle rolling around in there.
As long as you're going forward, not behind it, I guess it's okay. You're upwind.
Yeah, that too. I didn't even think about that. All right.
Oh yeah, there's cows on the inside of that. You can barely see them. Before I put the roof on, I printed out a bunch of pictures of cows, and they're glued on some card stock onto some pieces of wood that are on the inside. You can sort of see them if you squint hard and look up close, but maybe not in the picture.
Cool. All right. Any questions for Martin? Comments, concerns? All right.
Is the roof still available? Can you get those roofs?
Oh no, Indianapolis Car Company's been out of business forever. I think I have one roof left. I sold the other three. They made roofing pieces for regular passenger cars and trolley cars.
Right.
Both, and they're pretty nice. They're surprisingly nice, actually. But the problem is, if you need one that's a scale foot longer, well, no. Scale foot shorter, you can do that.
Right.
Martin, did you go out in the cow pasture and get anything for authentic smells in that car?
No. No. No.
Wow. Okay.
No smell-o-vision or anything of that sort.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that what Emerald Lagasse used to say, is smell vision?
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks for sharing, Martin. Any more questions? All right. And we will move on. And next up is Greg. I don't think Greg's going to be here tonight, but I do have his narrative. Are you with us, Greg? All right. So I'll go ahead and talk about it. What he's got here is a Darden's Mill kit bash. It was a mill that was served by the Western Maryland Railway in Elkins, just outside the yard. This will be installed on a layout with elevated tracks in the back, just like the prototype. And then he says the first photo there is the restored building, and then the second photo is what it looked like in the 70s. So what Greg actually did was kit bash this to make it a little bit more towards what he was looking for. You can see that he added some stuff to it. He used a cardboard mock-up to make sure everything was going to fit, excuse me, correctly. And then we can go through a little bit more of these. As you can see, it took looks like it took quite an adventure, kind of along the lines of what Father Ron went through, getting his building together to get everything straight and keep it straight. And you see the finished front and back on this one. And then, yep, there we go. And there's the back of it all finished. All right, moving on a little bit here. The scale house. It's based on a resin casting that his friend had. And he asked the friend what he'd like to have put on it. And I guess his friend told him that he would like a scale house. excuse me. This kind of looks like the base for a Fallberg depot, but it's not. All right, so Greg looks like he used some wood out of his scratch box, scrap box there, and decided to build the building based on what he had to work with. And excuse me, as you can see, it came out really believable. Looks like he used some weathering powders to give it the authentic look, make it look the way it should. And he did the same with the base, the walls, and of course the roof. And there it is, finished. The thing looks fantastic. And it looks like that was about it. Any questions? Oh yes, he also mentions that both of these were elevated to count towards his structures AP certificate. So are there any questions, comments, thoughts on this building other than he came out fantastic? I would believe that this is a real building in a heartbeat. All right.
How did he build that foundation? That's interesting. Is that a carved piece of plastic foam or something like that? Or
It was a piece of resin that his friend had. It must have been part of another kit that maybe he used the building for something else, and just ended up with the base. But that was manufactured by somebody for what kit I don't know. But it certainly looks. I really like the way the boards look on there. They're fantastic. They look all rotten and beaten up. All right. Any more questions? All right. Okay, we'll move on to Burned. Are you up, Burned? All right.
Vern's on here.
Is he?
He must be muted.
Oh yeah, there he is. I see him. Oh yeah, he's muted. Burned. You need. Well, actually, it says he's not muted. So it looks like he's having an issue with his microphone.
I'll call him and tell him to see if he's going to get on.
All right. Yeah, I see him. No, he's okay. Well, he did send me the narrative, so I can go over that, and he can slap me for what I mess up later. So this is an HO scale critter shed that's built in two versions. One using acrylic, and one was built using plywood. Come on. There we go. All right. Looks like he sat down and did some pretty comprehensive drawings of it, and it looks like he did this on a CNC machine. Okay. All right. I got that right. So the plans for the critter shed called for 1/8 inch thick acrylic and 1/16 inch thick plywood. You'll see in the second photo the CAD drawing of the critter shed. And then let's see, photo 3 is the CAM program showing the cutter paths and tabs to hold apart from getting tangled when cut free. Photo 4 is the acrylic version. That's the photo on the right. Held down with carpet tape. All right, and then moving on to the next step here. It said all parts were cut out and cleaned up, as we can see there, and then preparing to cut the plywood. So he used a lot of frog tape. He placed that on the bed of the machine first, and said it was also placed on the plywood. And then he used ACC on the tape on the bed and the machine. The plywood was then placed on the tape on the machine. Let's see the next photo. The completed routed parts were removed from the machine. The parts were pulled off the tape, as you can see there. And then the acrylic parts being assembled with weld-on for acrylics. And that was the dog that just banged the door down. Using magnets to hold the parts in place is right there on that photo on the right. And the next one is assembling the plywood version with magnets and 1, 2, 3 blocks. Oh yeah, cutting strips of 1/32 balsa for board-on-board siding. Thought that was pretty cool. I think that's an interesting idea that maybe I'll try sometime. The acrylic version shed with the balsa board or with a balsa board on board siding is there on the right. And then the plywood version shed with balsa board on board is on the left there again. And then Happy Accident built a mirror version of the acrylic shed. And moving on a little bit, cutting clapboard siding from premium cardstock by Naturals from Walmart, a Walmart product there, using 3M 465 adhesive transfer tape to glue down the clapboard there on the right. And then the next, we've got board and clapboard siding completed. And then the photo on the right there, cutting strips of cedar wrap for the shingles. That's a neat idea. And then shingles from a HO scale, 3 inches wide to 12 inches wide. So he varied the widths of them and cut them. And then he chopped the shingles to length on his homemade chopper. It's a heck of a homemade chopper you've got there. That was pretty cool. And then you see the finished result there. A shingled roof on the plywood version of the critter shed. And not quite finished shed. I think that was the next one here. Still needs to add the lean-to buildings with doors and operating main doors on the main building. So, and it looks like that's what we've got. Hopefully I presented you well. Okay, I got a clap. So I didn't totally screw it up. So
Said he had a microphone problem.
All right. All right. Well, let's see. Are you on the phone with him, Rich?
I was, but not now.
Okay. I was going to say if maybe we could relay and if there's people that have questions, we could address them that way.
Yeah, I can do that if you need to.
All right. Okay. Yep. Bern's got his phone. All right. Are there any questions for Bern? All right. Well, that was that's quite a build there. That came out fantastic. Really something to be proud of. I take it there's going to be you're going to add some the doors and windows. Are you gonna CNC print those, or are you gonna use like T-sheets or something? No, I don't know yet. Okay. All right, cool. Take it one day at a time. All right. Well, thanks for sharing, and hopefully you can get that microphone fixed so you can speak for yourself next time. All right. Next up, we'll have Barb Farquhar. You up, Bob?
Yes, sir, Reeby.
All righty.
Now, this is my very first HO scale scratch build. This is a little story that goes with this one. I built it out of 60 thou plastic from the side of the city bus, and it took me 3 months cutting it out and measuring it, whatever. And upstairs, putting on the little kitchen table on a cheap plastic tablecloth, laid all the parts out, had a brand new bottle of 10X7R glue. My wife asked me a question. I turned around and knocked the glue over. I didn't notice it and glued all the pieces. to the plastic, end up throwing all the guards and start all over again. So this is actually evergreen siding, bottom batten siding, and then the rest of it is all from a bus sign type of thing. And yeah, the chimneys are just, of course, brass pipes. The bottom of the chimneys are plumbing pieces. The eyelets for the holding the guy wires, they're fish hooks, and the thread is upholstery thread. So. And I lost on you see on the right hand side there, I lost one of the doors when I moved from Ottawa to Kingston here, and I found it about a month ago. And I glued it back on again. Okay, next one. Now this is I think there's two pictures here. This one and one more, isn't there? And this is O scale. I've never built I never did a scratch build on the O scale, so I had to try it. This is it here. I think there's one more picture, isn't there?
Yep. Hold on just one second here. Helping the 11-year-old with her issue here. Okay. All right, here we go.
A little better picture of it there. Yeah. So these are all made from popsicle sticks and stuff like that. Okay, that's about it.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing, Bob. Are there any questions for Bob?
What did you use for the hoops on the silo?
Oh, string. Just thread.
The foundry, wasn't that those plans were in a Craftsman, I believe. Is that
yes,
the one?
in the 60s.
Yeah.
That one there, yeah.
That's on my bucket list.
Yeah. Actually, I just sold it about a month ago.
Yeah, that one came out really nice. All right. Any more questions for Bob? Well, thanks for sharing, Bob.
Okay.
And next we'll move on to Jeff Jordan. You up, Jeff?
I'm here.
All right. Head on into it then.
Okay. So this is though I've scratch built a number of buildings, this is the only scratch build I ever did where there were no drawings, no plans, no dimensions available, just the photographs you see on the screen here were the historic photographs from which I had to attempt to scale dimensions. And to add to it, in my community, we have a small museum, and annually they have a different display. And about 9 months in advance of that display, they announced that it was going to be the stores in Fort Valley, and I volunteered that I would build a model of one of the buildings that no longer exists. That this location today is a vacant lot. There's not a trace that this building was ever there, just these two photographs. And so though I've since learned that there are some techniques and actually software for scaling three-dimensional objects off of photographs, I did it the hard way, all by myself, inventing ways to estimate the dimensions. And the one thing that I had going for me is that down here in the South, these raised seam metal roofs are very popular, and they come in a couple of standard sizes. Basically 18-inch and 2 foot are very common. And so fiddling around with those dimensions and counting the number of sheets on the roof, I was able to approximate the size. Though if you look at the photos carefully, you'll see that they're not the same. That on the left-hand photo there, the front portion of the building is one size, and then right at the chimney, it obviously was re-roofed at some point, and maybe the older roof was the narrower stuff. And then on the other side, it appears to be all the wider stuff. But so you had to count that and try and make the two sides come out even. And then the height of the building, I could go from the siding. It's very common around this area. There are a number of contemporaneous buildings with that kind of siding. And so I was able to find out the exposure, the amount of each siding board that's exposed below the overlap turns out to be about 4.5 inches. And so again, you could very carefully count the number of rows of siding and get the height and the lengths where the roofing would help you. And then, of course, there are a couple other walls, those two little additions on each side. I had to estimate their depths. And also the hardest part was the end wall, which was really a challenge to try and figure out how wide the end wall would be. And I did indeed build a mock-up in cardboard once I had guessed at the dimensions and then adjusted it and tried again until I thought I had gotten pretty close. The roof pitch is probably a little higher than the prototype, but it was also kind of building it selectively compressed a little bit to fit the space that I had available. But it's O scale. It's all evergreen styrene for the roof and the walls. The windows and doors are a combination of Grant Line stock pieces, Grant Line pieces altered to more closely resemble the size or the number of muttons in the window. And then the doors over on the shed on the right. One is a highly modified casting and the other one is a scratch built door. And the chimney is also a resin piece I rounded up somewhere. But then, assembling the various sides, I never did find out what the back of the building looks like. I guess there might have been some windows on the back, but I don't know. And so I just left that side blank. And flip to the next slide, please, Chris. I think we have one more that shows the right-hand side. You can kind of see in the photo that the one detail that's missing is a large television antenna. And I originally or intentionally omitted that, thinking I was backdating the building and that the television antenna was a late addition, till I met a very elderly gentleman in the community who told me, no, this store was the first place in Fort Valley, our community, that had a TV set. And that Friday nights, people from all over the community would come to the grocery store, sit, eat hamburgers, and watch television in the grocery store. So to preserve that memory, I definitely need to go back and solder up a TV antenna that I can mount on the back. It was a lot of fun discussing this with people. I asked people in the community if they recalled it, if they had photographs of it. And though nobody was able to come up with any more photos, they came up with a number of fun recollections. One of the things that people pointed to is just to the right of the door there, you can see the little benches. And they told me, be absolutely certain you put those benches in, because we remember going in this store as kids, buying ice cream and sitting on those benches by the door. The little shed on the left there that has the bicycle leaning on it and the 7-Up sign on it was a storage shed at one time. And then, believe it or not, became the community barbershop. Just that little add-on side was a single chair barbershop. And again, elderly residents told me, recalled having their hair cut in that little shed. So this model did go on display in the museum for the season while they had the display on stores in Fort Valley, and also was photographed and featured in the local newspaper. What else have we got going on here? The gas pump is a terrific little interaction. Hobbies gas pump and fit in just right. And you see in one of the photos that all of these stores had gas pumps out front, so I had to get the gas pump. The signs are a combination of, some of them were done with word processing software because of the wonderful, huge selection of fonts available. I was able to go through the fonts until I was able to generate signs that very closely replicated the font on the WF Lichtleiter grocery sign. The Coca-Cola button, of course, is easily commercially available. The Coke sign, I found that on a set of, or not Coke, the 7-Up sign, which is absolutely critical. You can see it there in the photograph. So I was pleased when I found that in a pre-printed set. And then on the front there, where it says FW Lichtleiter Grocery with the Coca-Cola sign in the middle, that was a bit of a challenge. And ultimately what I got was a much larger Coca-Cola button and carefully trimmed it to replicate the appearance in the photograph. Also the little sign, which presumably has the hours by the side of the door. That's actually from a photograph from the photograph. And I manipulated it to get it the right size and print it out and cut it out. Also, the no parking sign, which you can't really see very well over there on the right, is actually, again, a photo reproduction of the original no parking sign. Next slide, please.
This little place sounds like it was a place to be back in the...
Our tiny little community was very rural and at one time supported 7 different local stores or groceries. So this was one of the 7 and is one of the ones of which there is no indication that it was ever there other than those 2 photographs and people's memories. And so it was really fun to recreate it and get it in the museum there. And the base is a piece of plywood, and then using one of my favorite scenery techniques, the base is sculpt-a-mold. And not only is the soil sculpt-a-mold, but the sidewalk in front of the store is carefully carved and sanded sculpt-a-mold to give you the concrete. And then it's painted and textured with a number of texture materials, to principally ground foam and maybe some ground stone to get some texture in the driveway. And lots of aluminum foil. You see all the flashing there. That is all aluminum foil, carefully cut to fit on the other side, of course, where it does the stair step up was the hardest part. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to build this building, is because it has such an interesting footprint with that cutout on one corner with an angled wall, and then the 2 lean-to sections. It gives it quite an unusual floor plan. I think there may be 2 more photos that just show the other side.
Nope, that's it.
Oh, okay. But that's my scratch build project. And now I'm curious, I recently, going through very old issues of Narrow Gauge and Shortline Gazette, found an article in there on scaling a structure off of photographs similar to the ones I used. And so I'm curious to go back now and use those techniques, which account for perspective and so forth, to enable you to determine dimensions. And so I'm curious to try that and see how the dimensions using that technique compare to what I came up with, just a kind of by hand and by guess and by gosh approach to estimating dimensions. And also I found that there's an app for your phone that'll even do it now. So I might even try that.
Yeah.
But that's Lichtleiter's Grocery.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Jeff. Are there any questions? Any questions for Jeff?
Yeah. Was this HO or O?
This is O scale.
I really like that. I saw it when you presented this before. I like the fine lines and the way that you put that together. It looks so perfect.
Thank you. I really like building with evergreen styrene. I think it gives you a tremendous running start. Obviously, there's some things you got to be careful, like the siding lines up on the corners and so forth. But after years of building kits, I made my own parts and then put the kit together.
Is that roofing individual extra pieces, or was that a seamed roof?
Yes, that evergreen styrene makes raised seam roofing, and what you get in the package is the sheet of roofing material, which has been engraved with tiny little slots and very fine evergreen styrene strips that you have to individually glue into the grooves. And then you'll see in the photo there, you can put it and see on the right that I hand scribed the horizontal lines because those sheets, as in the prototype photo, are not long enough to do the whole length of the building. And so I really like it. And like I said, down south here, I've built several buildings, all with raised seam roofing. And the evergreen styrene roof, I think, gives you a really, really nice a model of raised seam roofing.
Yeah, but your roofing, it looks so perfect the way that you got those strips in there. It looks like they were factory something they bought.
Thank you. Evergreen styrene deserves some of the credit. And then I did spend a lot of time putting that roof together, including, and of course I did that flat on my workbench, scribing the horizontal scribes, and then it's primed and painted. And so the grooves have disappeared. And to my eye, it looks, if I went outside and looked at the raised seam roof of my house, it would look just like that.
Well, regarding that, I wanted to tell you, I won't keep you long here, but I wanted to say a while back, I had a trouble with trying to take a steel ruler and a pencil and trying to measure horizontal lines across for roofing. So I Googled NMRA rulers. Have you ever seen those? I bought one of those to scribe lines on a roof, and it really works out well, but the darn things are $50 a piece, but they're well worth the money.
Now, what is it called? What's the name?
NMRA, INKRA.
Huh, no. I use just a steel rule. I just use a scale steel rule and use that extensively because it's both a measuring tool and because it's a steel straight edge. It's also a building tool, scribing tool. Very, very handy.
It's called INCRA rule. Just
Google
that and bring up the website for you.
Thank you.
NMRA makes a whole bunch of different kinds of scribing tools. They do radial ones. They do all kinds of different ones. So
I'll put it in the chat.
Yep, I just brought it up. It looks like it's well worth investigating.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. There's quite a bit there. It looks pretty complicated.
Can one of you put up the website? Because I'm not on it.
Yeah, let's see here.
I didn't mean to run into your project here.
No, that's part of the whole purpose of this.
I see some of those are available right here on Amazon.
Yeah, that's where I bought mine, I think. I got the 12-inch one.
Yeah, it's really neat with the notches in it. So that rather than trying, what I typically end up doing is with a steel rule and an X-Acto knife tip and trying to make a little tick mark next to the, because this has got the little notches already cut in it, it actually, and of course us O-scale modelers with 1/4 inch to a foot, a ruler just marked in 16ths, 8ths, quarters is right up our alley. I think I'm ordering one.
Yeah, marked. I just want to mention they are also made of steel, and in order to use it in the holes, you have to use mechanical pencil that's .05.
Looks like Bernd has one.
It's marked in 30 seconds, 8, 16, 64, and it has a regular 1-inch ruler on it all the way to 12 inches. I just thought I'd mention that in case there was anybody else on the show that wanted to check it out.
I love it.
Yeah, that's neat. All right. Any more questions, comments for Jeff?
You hear me?
Yep. Now I hear you.
I finally got my microphone working. Okay.
Oh. All right. Any questions, comments, whatever for Jeff? All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Jeff. It's a beautiful model.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Doc Lovelace. You up?
I'm here. Just let me know if I have any microphone problems, because it's also been giving me some issues today, but I'm here.
All righty.
All right, so where are we at? Okay, the first picture here, this is actually going to be about maybe a quarter mile to a half mile lead in that crosses over the neighborhood of Astoria, Queens in New York City. And it's going to lead to the Hell's Gate Bridge. And these photographs here are of the archway concrete pillars that I made from cardstock and paper. The majority of the first ones that you see on the top left, that was the first iteration. And it's all completely made of paper and cardstock. It took me a minute to figure out kind of how to do it, I suppose. But after a while, as you can see from the bottom left picture, I kind of figured it out, even with the cornices on the top. Each one of those cornices is a separate piece of very thin paper. And I just layered them on top like a stair step until I got the proper shape. And the only one that is a solid piece is the very top plate. These are going to go, as you can see from the picture on the bottom left, but the bottom right of that, that's what they look like in real life. And then on the left, or in the middle side, there's two pictures on the top. The left one are the pillars that I've created out of paper, and the right one is the prototype that I'm trying to create. And as well as the very far right picture is just another view of that from the opposite angle of the 7 or so I've created so far, but it'll take about 16 of these before I'm done, just to lead into the bridge. And as you can see on the very bottom picture of the two bottom pillars, some pesky little guy, I don't know if you can see it, but on the back, on the left and right pillars, somebody graffitied new tracks on those pillars, and I don't know who did that, but all right, you go to the next one. Sorry, that's my dog. Okay, so this is these things I believe are called what is it? I made a note and it's up here. One second, I'm sorry. These are called lifting jacks on the top left. And the picture on the top left is what I had 3D printed for me. I designed these. I started with a gentleman that makes in-scale road cones. And these are only about 2.5 millimeters tall. And as you can see from the picture below them, the prototype picture, if you look really closely, right underneath the girders and right above the bridge piers, you can see how you can almost see the sky and the river. Between that is the height in between actually the girders and the piers. So instead of just plopping the girders right on the piers, I wanted to do it correctly. So I had these mocked up. And then also, oh, did you skip or?
No, I zoomed in on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So yeah, now you can see that, and you can also see by the picture on the right just how small they are. I mean, they are tiny, tiny, and I have to have 8 of those going across, because each pier, well, there's 8 different girders on each pier, and the girders in our world that I'm building will be 8 feet long. So I'll have to build and manufacture 8 feet long girders out of paper or cardstock. And on the right is the catenary poles. And these are actually, I'm glad you linked these two together, because these are the only 2 elements in this entire build that will be 3D printed. Everything else will be made from scratch out of paper or cardstock. On the right is the catenary poles. I have a gentleman that made these. Actually, it's the same gentleman that made the lifting plates for me. I just thought that these 2 elements right here would be just much, much too difficult to do with paper or cardstock, or, I mean, even wood. I mean, just the elements are so small. It would just, I just thought it would be very, very difficult. So, but that's it about these. You can go to the next one.
All right.
And this is a picture of my double-sided kitchen counter that's about, well, from what we're looking at, about 6.5 feet long. And this is what 7 of them look like at prototype length. The prototype will drop about an inch for every 100 inches to give it the grade back to East Astoria. So it gets higher, ironically, I guess not ironically, but it gets higher as it leads to the bridge. So the taller the pier, the closer you are to the bridge. The bridge itself that I'm modeling is prototypically 1,017 feet long. So for me, that's about 80 inches, which is massive. I will also model all the streets, the neighborhoods. Now, the buildings, of course, and the houses may not be exactly prototypical, but I can assure you that the streets will be. And I plan on fully detailing everything, even the East River that the bridge is going to span over, and the boats that would have been operating on that in the mid 80s. You can go to the next one.
Oh, that was it.
Oh, that was it. Oh, well, I thought I had sent you one more about the like a close up of it, but maybe not. But well, just on this one, then, if you look to the far left, you can see the bridge deck that I've started to create with the. I have 2 girders just on the ends, but those are just one on the left and one on the right. There will be 6 more in between them, and they will all 8 will span 8 feet in length, and they are only 3/4 of an inch tall. They're made out of 1 millimeter card, and each one of the segments in between to create the girder segments are also made out of 1 millimeter card. So you can probably understand how difficult this is to glue and keep from warping and all the other fun aspects of working with N scale.
Yeah,
But,
use a little bit of extra glue and you throw the whole thing off.
yeah. I mean, any little thing. I mean, just too much paint, too much moisture, anything. But oh yeah, I forgot I added a lighter there just so you can see how small all this is. Because those bridge piers in real life, the one you're looking at with the lighter on it is 95 feet tall.
Yeah, and you've got one at the other end too, I see.
Yep. That one, that bridge pier there on the other end is 102 feet tall, or 101, something like that. But
Hey, yeah. Doc, Tom Farrell here.
Yes, sir.
Is this a diorama, or is it a part of going to be a model railroad, or what do you?
I believe it's going to be a standalone. It's going to be a point-to-point. I am going to power it. And the only thing that I thought I could get away with, which is it's going to be a modular thing still, of course, because otherwise there's not going to be any way I can be able to get it out of my apartment. I mean, but what I'm going to do is it's going to be a powered track. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is once the bridge piers get down to a somewhat believable street level, maybe 40 feet, 50 feet, I might have the track do a loop around. And then once it goes back over the bridge, because this bridge has 4 tracks initially. Now they only run 3. I believe Amtrak owns 2 of them, and CSX, I believe, runs 1 for freight, and the other one is completely just grown over with overgrowth, which that's going to be so fun to model. I really can't wait to model the top of the bridge deck. But once it goes over the bridge and over the water, what I was thinking of is maybe creating some type of little tunnel with a backdrop that kind of represents the city that you would see in the background. And it just goes through a little portal and then does a loop around right there and comes right back. So it's just going to go basically back and forth. Yeah. But back and forth here, though, is roughly 18 to 20 feet in N scale, which that's still a lot of train watching.
Doc?
Yes, sir.
It's Pat here. That original picture of the track work, it looked like they sat on concrete ties. Am I right or wrong on that?
I don't think so. All the pictures that I've seen from the top of the deck, they just looked like regular metal ties, steel ties. Are they? I mean, you tell me.
It looks very much like concrete because of the shape of them. Are all
I see what you're saying right there. But look at the one to the left of it, though.
Yeah, that's regular ties, but that one there is all concrete.
Yeah. That one there. That might very well be.
Main
you think
line.
that would be the CSX?
Mainline track. Yep.
The Amtrak train are on the concrete ties.
Yep. Main line.
Well, it's cool. I know where to get those. I know where to get those in N scale too.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, I'm just I'm fighting one battle at a time with this. But is that not going to be so fun to model? I mean, I'm gonna have a half mile of overgrown track. I mean, that's got to be fun.
Great job.
Yeah. Once you get into scenery, that's you'll become addicted and then go, did I do enough? Did I do too much? What am I doing here? So
well, I mean, there's one good thing about this particular bridge is when it was built in the early 1900s, it was the largest steel arch bridge of its kind. And the Sydney Bridge in Australia, actually, the designer got his influence from this bridge. So there's plenty of pictures and reference photos for me to work on. And it's also, it's very much part of New York folklore. So people still go there and there's all kinds of ghost stories surrounded about it. I didn't want to give you guys a whole history lesson about it. We can do that another day. But yeah, it's called the Hell's Gate because the waterway underneath it, back when there were merchant ships and most of them were made out of wood and everything, they lost 1, 2, 3 out of 100 ships that went just through that area of New York because the water was just so torrential, like right there. So as a result, of course, there's all kinds of ghost stories and all kinds of things associated with the bridge.
Yeah. That's neat.
So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to honestly get the bridge over with so I can start working on Queens and Astoria.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Are there any questions for Mitch? All right.
Mitch, this is Bob Davidson. How did you decide to model this area?
Actually, I went on Google Earth and I tried to find, I knew I wanted very, very high congestion, very high density, because I'm just in love with big cities and things like that. So I wanted somewhere where I could incorporate bridges. I could have a waterway. I could have a railroad, and I could also have that high residential area. And this just was perfect. I looked at maybe 6 or 7 other bridges up along the Northeast, and other areas. And when I saw this one, it was just absolutely perfect. If I choose, I can even model a park too, because right before this hits
Right.
Hell's Gate Bridge, there's Astoria
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah, I grew up right near there, so.
Yeah, so when I saw it, it was just, I mean, every element about it was beautiful. There's history to it. Even
Right.
the New Jersey, one of their model railroad clubs up there has already reached out to me, and they're like, "Why did you choose this? This is going to be amazing."
Well, good work. Good work, Doc.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, this is kind
Well,
of a neat
it's
in
definitely a work
progress.
in progress, but
Yeah.
Doc, what are you going to build the actual bridge itself?
it's
What
going
material?
to be laser cut MDF wood.
Okay.
I should have actually put a picture of that on here. That's already designed and ready to go.
Cool. All right. Any more questions for Mitch? All right. Well, thanks, Mitch. We look forward. Please send us more photos of the progress. Looks like a very interesting project.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Next up is Ken Myers. I saw you there, Ken. You ready?
I am.
All right. Here we go.
All right. This is a John Whiffen scale scenes kit that I modified. It's built in HO scale instead of UK double O. I added windows to both the narrow ends, and I added the roof down over the walkway. There's a little HO guy size guy inside there. And on the left picture, you can see a picture of a pallet with some boxes on. That came from a Team Tracks warehouse I'd built. And it turned out I liked it a lot. So I got more and more involved in doing that. And I decided I wanted to create my own. So we can go to the next picture. And I designed and built this boutique hotel. And it was designed in Inkscape, and it's basically a rectangle, but I gave it a little personality by naming it the Arlo Boutique Hotel. And on the bottom floor is Alice's restaurant. And if you look at the far left picture, in the center window, there's a little sign at the bottom of the window, and it says, can you guess it?
You can get anything you want.
That's exactly what it says. And the air conditioner came from a Clever Model, no, an Acme transfer warehouse kit. And I was having so much fun designing my own designs that I went ahead and I built another building. And I had something particular in mind. You want to do the next one, Chris, please? I have a train table, not a full-blown around-the-wall layout. So you view it from both sides. I run it from both sides. So on the front side of this building, I have Ken's Fresh Market and Ace Hardware and some apartments for rent. And on the right, when you view it from the back side or the other side of the table, I have a furniture maker there. And right next to him, I've got Mike's Upholstery. So it's a 2-in-1 building, just depends on which side of the train table that you're standing on looking at it. I gave it a little bit more personality by putting the little bit larger building on the end, but it's basically the hotel repeated again. And I just had a lot of fun doing it. So that's my three either scratch built or kit bash buildings. Next picture. That's my train table. It's 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, and is dead rail. And I use Locify. That's where that picture at the beginning came from when I was on here. On May 11th, this past year, I was talking about Locify, and I stuck the various URLs that I used in here so anybody who's watching this later can see what I was talking about, scale scenes, team track, clever models parts I used. I have a web page, and that's about it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Are there any questions for Ken?
What did you use for the gutters and the downspouts?
Cardstock. It's a method that's John Whiffen of Scale Scene uses to put the downspouts. The downspouts are actually part of a wall that sticks out, and the gutters are cardstock that are underneath, come out from underneath the eaves.
Go back and look at those.
Yeah,
yeah, go right there.
so the gutters come out, and then the downspout connects to the downspout that's actually the piece of cardstock that is trapped between an inner wall and outer wall. There is what is sticking out of the building, the downspout going down. So it's just, it looks like it was added on, but actually it was built in to the basic structure.
Huh. It's a neat technique.
It is a very neat technique. I learned that the guy that I follow, and I never met, never talked to or anything, but I feel he's my mentor in this kind of construction. His name is Michael Scott, and he has a YouTube channel called Chandwell, Chandwell. And I learned the how to use Inkscape from him to create buildings and where to find textures and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not a master modeler, but I don't need master buildings. I don't have a long life cycle left. So I just do what I like, and they look pretty good sitting in there on the railroad.
Yeah.
Ken?
Chandwell is definitely one of the layouts and one of the gentlemen that got me so excited about thinking I could pull off this stuff in N scale, because he also does N scale, right? Or no,
Yes,
he might.
he does.
Yeah, yeah.
He
And
does
it's amazing.
UK. He does UK and scale, so it's a little bigger. It's
But
114.
it's just what he pulls off with paper. I mean, he made a giant church and did stained glass windows and designed it all in Inkscape, and his work is phenomenal.
It is jaw dropping. I marvel at the guy. He's like 30 some years younger than I am, and his passion, his knowledge, and he attributes how he learned to do this stuff from John Whiffen of Scale Scenes. But you look at his stuff and you go, oh my God, that's UK N scale, 1/148th, and the detail. And if you photograph it really close, can you see little things here and little things there that could be better? Right. But if you stand at a normal distance from it, you go, how in the world did he do that and make it look so real? He has a kebab building with a complete interior. restaurant kebab building, and he's got the interior in it. And when you look through the windows, you go, "Oh my God, you could go there to eat." He's totally amazing.
And
Yes.
the roofing on that,
On which one? That one or the
that one
first?
there, is that a printed?
The roofing on that is just a textured roof that I got from architecture.com. It was a free texture.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. Any more questions for Ken? All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Ken. And we will move on. Next up is Gary Shergold. You up, Gary?
I'm here.
All right. Your Bud car.
Yes, this is a totally scratch built, right from the roof and everything. Pat and I are very good friends, and we have a connection to getting and making wood shapes and things. So what I had done, this is a scratch built Bud car. It was an article out of RMC back in the 90s. It's either a C&O or B&O model that I built for my model power certificate for the NMRA program. The roof is wood. The shapes that you see on the roof are all cut from wood or bits of plastic. Evergreen plastic was used for the siding. It was all laid out. I did my own riveting on the strips with a pumice wheel, and then measured out, cut everything to size. The underneath, same thing. These are plastic pieces and shapes that I had built and put underneath. All the rigging and everything is to prototype. The unit itself is powered, as you can see on the right there, by a Tenshoto power truck. That's the power for the unit. Next slide.
Come on. There you go.
Now you can, when I started building models, I never liked to weather them. But when I took them to judging, I was told you should do some weathering. So this is one of my attempts at very light weathering. As you can see, the dust and that has come up on the side. Just showing the different shapes on the front end. And the one side of the car, and then of course looking at the back end of the car with couplers, and those are metal handrails and that where the doors are to get in. As I said, it's all scratch built. There's very few actual parts, the KD couplers, of course, that are on it. Next slide. Again, looking at the one side of it, and then looking down on the roof. The roof was a solid piece of wood. It was shaped to fit the profile, and of course painted. It's painted a greenish color. I'm a CN modeler, and this is CN green, and it's also deckled for the Wyoming S&K, which is my own railroad. and I interchange with CN. I think there's another slide, Chris.
I think so. Yeah.
That's it?
Nope. One last one. Here we go.
Yeah, here we are, just showing the front, little cow catcher. That was a little bit of plastic and that all done and put to shape, put a ladder on it. It's got the exhaust grills on the top and then the big round grill. That was fun to build using some doweling and some rings to get that in shape. Now it is a little dusty. I tried to clean it off, but I think it needs a little.
Thought that was weathering.
Yeah, we'll call it weathering. But that was my project that I needed to complete to get my motor power certificate.
Okay.
That was one of three.
All right. Is this DC or DCC?
That is DC. That was done. That was actually built in the late 90s.
Oh, okay. Pre-DCC.
Pre.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks I'm blown away by the fact that it's just a scratch build. That's it's quite a job there. That's something to be proud of.
It was a lot of fun.
Yep. Alrighty. Are there any questions for Gary?
Nice job.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, excellent work.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Gary. That's a fantastic model.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Next up, we've got Bill Stimson. Saw you earlier. Are you up, Bill? Oh, there you are.
I'm here. Okay, this is a complete cash built with the exception of the stovepipe, which is a grant, not a tissue stovepipe that I bent to fit in that window. And it's also N scale. So this is from plans in an old model railroader magazine. And I see my stairs are still crooked. Oops.
That's character.
Yeah. It's supposed to be just an old backwoods cabin that you should do as your first scratch build.
Hmm.
It's not my first, but it was fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a neat little thing that you kind of stash in the back of the layout somewhere and see if anybody notices it.
Yeah. Well, when you consider, I thought I had a dime on one of these pictures, but apparently not.
I think there might be one later on.
I know there's some of the other buildings have it. Oh, and this is another model railroader plan by Bob Hayden. His was the Smith Brothers Fish, but I don't intend to do a town near fishing, so I decided to change it to the Canning Company. This is built in wood this is Northeast clapboard, 1/32 space. And the black and white was actually an accident. I was out filming outside, and when I came in and put them up on my computer, I noticed that I had accidentally touched the gray filter on my camera. So the ones that are black and white are a happy accident, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, sometimes you see more in black and white than you do in color.
The windows, the upper windows were only nine pane, so I cut one portion of the window off on the Tichy 6/6 windows and re-glued it. And that's exactly what Bob Hayden did in his, only I don't think he used Tichy. I think he used Grant Line windows, but no big deal. The two chimneys are metal castings that I found in my box of parts that I find at swap meets. And I actually found two that were identical. So I thought, well, I'll just use them. And the signs were printed on my printer. But if you go to the next one, the sign on the other side,
Yeah, there's your dime.
there's the dime that shows you how big this building is. The sign on that back, I did that by putting dry transfer lettering on and then painting the green over the top of it. And then I peeled the dry transfer lettering off to make it look like it was painted on. And I need to do some more work on that technique because the S's don't look right. Most of the rest of it looks pretty good though. And the windows over the door, they're Tishy lights. The lights over the door are Tishy, so there's no LED in them. They're not going to be on. The other two stacks on the roof were other pieces found in my parts box. The downspout is just a piece of styrene that I bent to fit. Go to the next one. The plans for this came from a book called Easy to Build Model Railroad Structures. And I like this building because it was wood on the bottom with a steel I-beam and then brick on the second story. That's unique. So the brick is Monster Model Works brick with some tissue windows in it. And then that's a northeast siding wooden I-beam, and then the lower story is individual pieces of HO 1x6 to be N scale 2x10s. And the doors are scratch built. It's a piece of basswood on the bottom with small strips of styrene for the little metal pieces, and then the little dots you see that represent the bolts that go through that are just dots of paint. I don't know if there's another picture or not.
I think that might be it. No, yep, that's it.
So those are my 3 scratch built buildings built within the last month.
All righty. Well, thanks for sharing, Bill. Are there any questions for Bill?
It's amazing work in N scale. It's having started in N scale back in 1967. I appreciate how difficult this is.
It can be challenging.
Well done. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with that. I'm trying to put out a couple kits in Unscale myself, and I'm like, oh, I just having a hard time wrapping around getting everything to that size.
Yeah.
So it's quite a challenge.
It helps that, like Tom, I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, I did it for God, I hate to say it, almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah.
easily there.
So, but excellent. I mean, people don't appreciate, you're at high magnification. You're not normally looking at N scale right in your face. You're looking at it 2-3 feet away, and it's just spectacular.
Really cool. Any questions for Bill? All right. Well, thanks, Bill. We look forward to what you come up with for next time. And I think we last on the list is Father Ron. You up, Father?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Yep. Okay. This is a long one tonight.
This is one of Bar Mills kits. It's really just the kit put together. As I said, when I sent these to you, I said that these weren't scratch built or kit bashed. The only thing I changed on here is the name of the store. This is a plumbing supply, and my dad was an electrician, as I mentioned, and he often worked on different jobs and with other union people. And one of them was a local plumber in my hometown. His name was Jim Supple, Supple. like you talk about being supple or flexible. Jim eventually became the business manager for the union, the plumbers union. And I thought I would just name the plumbing supply place that after him. So this was quite a challenge to build so I found some mistakes in Bar Mill's instructions, so I had to basically work around them. Next slide. And this was one of Foscale Model's kits. It was, I think it was called a depot. I just call it a wayside station, wayside transfer station. Again, it was quick, easy, simple build. And I don't have a name for it yet. I will eventually name it, but it was an evening build or a couple of evenings build. So I think that's all I have for you.
Yep, that's it. All right. Thanks for sharing, Father Ron.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions for Father Ron? All right. Well, thank you. And we will look forward to whatever you bring us next time. All right. The next My Build is March 26th. It's a free-for-all, so anything goes. Please get your photos to me by March 23rd. Send that to railrunner130@hotmail.com. And we'll go on and take a look at our upcoming challenges. In April, it'll be automation, animation, make it move. That'll be their April 23rd show. May 29th, or I'm sorry, May 28th, it will be a free-for-all. Again, anything goes. And we'll open up the elections for future challenge themes at that time. And if you have any ideas for themes, please email them to me. I've got one so far. Then if we don't get many, then I'll just go ahead and recycle what we used last year for ideas, and we'll vote, and that'll determine the next 6 challenges to cover the next year. And we'll have those results. Tom and I haven't talked about the timeline on that yet, but we'll come up with something. The June 21st show will be waterfronts, boats, bridges, that sort of thing. And with anything, whatever you can get to fit into those categories, we'll gladly show. So we look forward to what you guys have to and gals. There are some women out there have to show us, and that looks like it's about it for the show for tonight. So without further ado, I will stop the share.
Chris, you did an excellent job tonight assembling all those fantastic modelers, and very, very engaging and terrific show this evening. Well done.
Thank you.
And it's really
Yeah.
great to see our modelers, our viewers, and see their model.
It was kind of bittersweet because on the one hand, we got a ton of entries, but I ended up having to double up a lot of them, double and triple. So that way it keeps the show moving a little bit quicker. So
You did an admirable job. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
So that concludes our show, but we have the closing with Father Ron, who is making his 3rd appearance this evening. We're getting our money's worth out of Father Ron this evening. And then we have a caboose. And thank you, Father Ron. I really appreciate you doing your own segment. And then you were part of the My Build, and then the close. Maybe you should sit behind the mask.
Thank you
very much. Thank you very much.
Master Maker of the Universe. Our scale models imitate your creative spirit, and we learn the genius of your handiwork. Teach us to appreciate all you have made. Amen.
Thank you. And we'll see you with part 2 of your segment at some point when you're ready. And next we have a caboose from Bill? Donner Pass. Bill, tell us a little about the animation. This guy's gone to great length with these.
Yeah, so this is a really cool layout. If you saw at the very beginning there was a building behind the house. That's where the layout's located. I think it's a 55 by 40-foot building. The layout is Donner Pass. Basically, the yard in the center, one end, it represents Roseville. The other end represents Sparks, which is on the other side of Donner Pass. So the layout, basically, you go around about 3 times when you go across the Sierras. You kind of see these boards. He uses the railroad company software, which I think is German, to actually run the layout. And you'll see in some pictures in a moment, some of the pictures of it. The video just quality didn't come out. I don't understand what's happening, but that's life. You can still get a pretty good idea of it. But you get an idea of the size. This was an operating session about 3 weeks ago during a SIG meet here. Some pretty cool bridges on the layout. And yeah, so he's got it set up where when you see in a moment, you'll actually see there's a big staging yard under the layout in the back. And you can actually select a train, and this software actually understands there's a block, and you can assign the block to a train. And then what'll happen is it'll actually, if you select that train/block, you can basically establish a route to move it to somewhere, and the software will do it automatically for you. So it's pretty amazing. And then he's implemented with that the ability to have human operators actually run it for operations. So
another $1 million layout.
Yeah, absolutely. Advantage of being an early Intel employee. Those bridges, the silver bridge there and the orange bridges, are brass bridges built by Oriental. So that was the dispatch panel. And again, these are those bridges that are pretty amazing. But it's an incredibly well-built layout with, well-finished, great modeling and HO, obviously. So this is the yard. This isn't the yard panel. This is a different panel. This is actually the operating session for the software. As an operator, what you get is a phone, and you actually go to onto a web page, and that runs your engine, and it actually gives you the signals that are in front of you right on the phone. Pretty amazing.
If money was no object, this is what you wind up with.
No, it's great. It's well done. I mean, and he's got a group that has helped him build it, and you kind of see there's a walkway around the outside, and that's somebody operating up there. TSG Multimedia has a 36-minute video you can watch on this. Anyway, back to you, Tom.
Excellent. What city is that in, actually?
It's in Granite Bay, which is
Northern California.
Just outside of Sacramento.
Yeah.
Up towards the lake there. It's a very nice area.
Yeah, towards Orville, up that way.
No, actually south. It's kind of south. It's kind of east from Sacramento, almost due east, kind of up towards the Sierras right there.
I'm going to have to visit that sometime. Thank
Absolutely.
you for showing that video and taking that video. And that, my friends, concludes this evening's show. Excellent show. Great MyBuild this evening. I mean, absolutely on your chair with this one. And then Father Ron with 3 appearances, and just a great show. And we'll see you next week.